And the topic of today's webinar is the Your Drink Your Call campaign and a no alcohol update. So please note the views and opinions expressed as part of this presentation are those of the presenters and do not necessarily represent those of our funders or other organizations acknowledged. So a bit about our presenters today. We've got Stephanie Cooper and Kara Thompson from the SHEA lab at St. FX. Kara is the program coordinator for the interdisciplinary health program at St. FX. She is also the director of the Substance Use and Health and Emerging Adulthood, or SHEA lab, where she works closely with Stephanie, who manages the lab. The goals of the lab are broadly to enhance health and wellness in emerging adulthood, advance evidence-based policy and practice, and support mental well-being and safer substance use. Kara and Stephanie are always open to connect, collaborate, and support work within these areas of expertise. And we also have Tim Namey and Andrea Cowan from CSER and No Alcohol. Tim is the director of the Canadian Institute for Substance Use Research, a professor at the University of Victoria's School of Medical Science, and co-PI of the CAPE and No Alcohol projects. He is a physician and alcohol epidemiologist with research interests including binge drinking, youth drinking, and the evaluation of alcohol policies for preventing and reducing harms. Andrea is the project coordinator with the CSER No Alcohol project. She has also worked as a consultant for the Northern Alcohol Strategy, supporting communities in Saskatchewan with locally led initiatives aimed at reducing alcohol harms. Andrea has been working in alcohol policy and alcohol health for several years, focused on multi-stakeholder collaboration, engagement, and increased awareness and dialogue. So before we begin, I wanted to start with a brief clip from the recent CBC Nature of Things documentary called The New Science of Alcohol, which features both the Your Drink Your Call campaign and noalcohol.ca. So
today we're going to talk about noalcohol.ca, the partnership, promotion, and dissemination aspect of it. A little bit of a site demo to refresh your memory and some background, and then we'll talk about how our launch has gone and how we'd love to partner with people to sort of promote it further. Next slide, please. So in terms of our team, we got very generous funding from Health Canada's SUAP, Substance Use and Addictions Program, for this project. And we partnered with Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction very closely. Project staff at UVic, or myself, Andrea, we're both presenting today, of course, and Amanda, who's our moderator today. And we could not have done this project without I should say, keep slipping in my American, without Kevin Shield at CAMH, who put all the quantitative modeling into the back end of this, which is just incredible. Our website was developed with SuperUs, and digital marketing was through the Be the Change group, who are very good. Next slide, please. You guys, I think, are familiar with this. Canada's Guidance on Alcohol and Health. It's been great. It does give sort of big fat averages across the population, and people have a tough time understanding risk, even in that context. So that was really the purpose of the development of No Alcohol. Next slide. And I would just say that in addition to giving sort of more personalized estimates, and maybe a slightly different focus than what was presented in the video that Amanda just showed, is really our focus is on not so much the baseline risks of consumption, but on the benefits if people choose to drink less. So we're trying to have a positive frame as much as possible. In general, like public awareness and adherence to the guidelines is suboptimal, although consumption has been declining. So only about 30% of Canadians are aware of national drinking guidelines, and at least half of drinkers are consuming alcohol at levels that are considered moderately risky or greater. So i.e. More than 6 standard drinks per week is the sort of the moderate risk zone. So they're 3 to 6 or above that. And the idea was that offering digitalized, personalized alcohol information could better inform Canadians. And that's what, again, led us to noalcohol.ca. Next slide. I'm just going to very briefly cover off on the method since we talked about it last year. But first, we did a really nice lit review on just the general principles around risk communication, because it is such a tough area, and we also did a bit of an inventory of existing personalized alcohol tools. We also conducted a Canada-wide survey that assessed alcohol knowledge and asked people about their interest in various topics with respect to personalized alcohol information. So we also had consultations with CSER experts and CCSA scientists. And there we have our public engagement with our 19 Canadians, our web advisory group, to inform things like the domain name and the website content. Next slide, which is to introduce Andrea, who's going to walk us through the site and then tell us how the launch went.
Here we are. Here we see kind of the landing page. This is the home page when you first arrive. We've got some general messaging from the guidance, some of the key messages and quick links, but we'll launch right into the calculator here by clicking that Calculate Now button, where I quickly see some basic inputs. So I'm going to say that I am a 47-year-old female. And I'm going to say that currently I drink about 3 drinks a day, so 21 drinks a week. And I want to only drink on weekends. I'm going to cut down to 4 drinks a week. That's an optional input for people that are considering it. And then we can kind of toggle at the bottom. So we'll start with looking at our health risks. And we start by seeing at our current drinking. So at that current 21 drinks per week, I see my average life lost. I see the life lost per death among those who drink, my cigarette equivalency, and I've got a little drop down there. And there where I can explore my risks when it comes to alcohol-related cancers, injury. And then if I keep scrolling, I'm able to see at my target, my 4 drinks per week, all that same information kind of juxtaposed there, including the collapsible disease risk. And then at the very bottom, kind of highlighted in yellow, I can see my benefits. So cutting back 17 fewer drinks per week, I can see everything kind of framed with a gains frame. So my life regained, my decreased disease risk. And then at the very, very bottom, I'm kind of situated as to kind of where I fall on the guidance with the continuum of risk. So those are my health results. I'm also able to explore what that looks like in terms of my costs. So we have that kind of $2.71 entered as a standard, but I know myself, I drink fancy cocktails. They're $10 a pop. So that really quickly kind of calculates those real-time changes. So I can see my monthly expenses yearly and over my remaining lifetime based on average life expectancy, both at that comparison between my current and my target. And then again, I'm able to see my savings. So we found this one really impactful. There's monthly savings, yearly savings, remaining lifetime. And then if I were to put that in a retirement fund up to current age to 65, I can see what that could look like for me. So yeah, the cost savings were really huge from our public advisory group. Really were drawn to that one as well. And then the last tab that I can see is my calories. So again, at my current, I can see calories per day, what that looks like as a breakdown. And then we did some calorie equivalents in the drop down there as well. So don't tell McDonald's, but those are based on Big Macs, a cheeseburger equivalency, what it looks like in terms of soda, fat per year, and sugar per year, both again at my current and my kind of drinking target or my goal, as well as that benefit frame. So looking at what that looks like in terms of calorie savings, and maybe how many more cheeseburgers or sodas I could have per month if I reduced my alcohol consumption. So the calculator is really the main feature of the site, but of course we wanted to frame that with some general information. If we just hover on the About Alcohol tab, we have some kind of information there in terms of benefits of drinking less, some kind of demographic specific information. And then we also have a resources tab. So if we click on the standard drink calculator, we know how important it is if you're using the tool to understand what a standard drink looks like. So we have our standard drink calculator, as well as a standard drink visualizer towards the bottom, where I can kind of see based on common vessel types. We know that a tall can is more than one standard drink. So that just helps people visualize what they might be drinking. And in that same resources section, we have some support services, we have self-assessment, We'll go to the reflecting on your results. This is a more recent addition to the site itself. We wanted to kind of have some reflective questions there so that most people are self-guiding through the site, so they can kind of, if we scroll down, we'll just kind of see some questions that are all linked exactly to the results that you're seeing in the calculator. So around health, around spending. This could also be used as a clinical or conversational tool with a loved one, with a client, if we're kind of walking through the site with somebody. And then other kind of links that we have at the top there, just quickly, we do have a quiz section. If we click on that, we see some kind of myth busting tiles that give us myths or facts. There's also a short quiz towards the bottom. And if we go to the very bottom, I'll just highlight, so we don't have to go to it, but just know that that research tab, if clicked, it kind of gives some easier to understand definitions of all of the calculator outputs that you might see. And then also on the bottom that I'll direct you guys towards is the team page. So here, if we scroll down, we can see all of our campaign materials. Know that these exist here. Know that they're downloadable and available for Facebook, Instagram, kind of in different file formats for social media sharing. If anyone wanted to kind of share these on behalf of your organization, they're downloadable, they're open access. And if you get in touch with us, you're welcome to add your own institutional logos to those as well if you wanted to integrate them into your own kind of public health campaigns. So that's our basic site tour. I'll also just mention quickly that the site is fully bilingual. So at the top, there's a toggle. It's available both in English and French. And next from there, we can kind of bring up, and I'll show you some of the results or findings from our digital ad campaign as well. Awesome. So you kind of saw these on this site themselves, but these are our campaign assets. So we did run a national and fully bilingual ad campaign coast to coast across Canada from last January until June. We're currently in the midst of another January campaign. These are what the assets look like. We really wanted some kind of bright, vibrant imagery and really leaning into that kind of it's your right to know. So all of these are kind of based on, think you know alcohol. And we'll just go into some of the results from that. So the first one is around earned media. So Tim likes to say this is advertising we didn't have to pay for. These are from media, especially around Dry January last year, and last year with the US Surgeon General's announcement around alcohol as a carcinogen. We had a lot of media attention around noalcohol.ca, which was awesome, and a great amount of reach through that media. And then we also did a series of paid advertising that we were able to do thanks to our Health Canada funding. So this is just from that general population. This is what we started with last January and February. And we're able to see kind of the impressions. So that's just if the ad came across somebody's social media feed. And then we're able to see who clicked on it and kind of the click-through rate. So we were really, really impressed by the amount of people that chose to click on those ads and visit the site and explore the calculator and the information on it. On the next slide, if we can, we're also able to see what our kind of campaign looked like as a breakdown. So this is kind of a busy slide, but I'll just direct everyone to that left-hand column. So general population, that's who we started with. We also targeted men 25 to 55 that are higher risk drinkers, youth 15 to 24. The calculator can calculate from age 15 upwards. If you're between the ages of 15 and 25, you do get a little notice that lets you know that delaying drinking for as long as possible is best for your health. And then lastly, our final campaign was targeted at women women 18 to 40. So you're just kind of able to see what platforms we used. We played around. We'd never used Snapchat before. We used that for the youth audience. We played around with platforms and we're able to see kind of our clicks for each of those, what we spent on our advertising campaign. And then below that in brackets is kind of the dollar per click value, as well as how that resulted in terms of active site users. So that was our campaign from January until the end of this last June. And then this is kind of a visual breakdown of the same. You'll see at the very, very start where that little red arrow is, that's all of the earned media. So that was the not paid digital advertising that just kind of went out through the news. And then you're kind of able to see how those looked. Our biggest spend was at the start with general population, and we're able to kind of see the visual of how that breakdown looks. And then our results in terms of site visits. So this is based on our Google Analytics on the back end of the site. We're able to see kind of a breakdown in terms of English or French users. We're really happy that most people who landed on the homepage did go to the calculator page and kind of played around with it to test their results, as well as a really high, that 2 minutes and 28 seconds for average duration. That's super high for a website. So we're happy to see that people were fairly engaged with what they were looking at. And you may have noticed that as we were scrolling through the site, there was a little kind of yellow tab that followed us along, prompting site feedback. So this is optional site feedback, where people could enter in some basic demographic information, including we were curious to capture kind of the drinking levels of the site users. We're not capturing on the back end when somebody inputs into the calculator. First off, it was kind of a nightmare to do. And next off, we recognize that people want to play with the calculator. They want to use it for a loved one. They want to play around and say, okay, well, what if I drank at this level? Or what if I shifted my drinking? And so where we are capturing it is on that feedback survey. And we're also really happy to see what we were testing for around reported improved knowledge or intention to drink less. Those are some really great stats for us to see as well, and to know that folks were taking in that information and that it could lead to behavior change. And on the next slide are just some kind of the qualitative. There's a little open field at the bottom of that. So again, that first comment, someone's mentioning kind of playing around with the calculator to find what is the sweet spot for them. And that last comment from a family physician who's using the tool as a conversation starter for patients or clients. So we're happy to see that as well. And I believe, Tim, this is where I'll pass it to you for some of our next steps.
Sounds great, Andrea. Thanks. So Andrea just did all the hard work, and I'm just going to wrap up and talk about next steps. So one of the things is we've reached out to the public through the earned media and the paid media, and now we're trying to develop partnerships with people, and they're free and encouraged to use any of our campaign assets for free, and they can even put their own sort of co-branding onto that. This is a picture of a billboard, and you can see Newfoundland, Labrador, and they were very modest in the bottom right corner. We teamed up with them, so they used some of our assets for an alcohol campaign, which was great. Next slide. And I'm going to jump to the bottom first. We have our next digital marketing campaign that's already underway in the beginning this January with again, going back to the general population now that we're a year in. And then in spring, we're going to do another surge in that campaign, which is going to be looking more to reach more rural and remote populations, which is a group that we did not sort of target specifically last year. And then up on the top, what we've done is we've also developed, in addition to those static images, we've developed a series of promotional videos, some on the shorter side and some a bit longer, up to a minute. And those are also going to be available to use. And I think if all goes well, Amanda may play just one to give you a flavor of that.
How does alcohol impact your health and well-being? Check out your health risks, like cancer or cardiovascular disease, and even the cigarette equivalent of your drinking. Want to cut back? See how much you can gain. It's your right to know. Check your results today at noalcohol.ca.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll turn it over to the St. FX team.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. Thank you for joining us to learn more about this campaign that we're going to talk about, Your Drink, Your Call. So Your Drink, Your Call is intended for post-secondary audiences. And we know that post-secondary settings are a really critical developmental transition for a lot of young adults in Canada. And it's a period that's marked by really profound new independence and social exploration and shifting routines. And as a function of that, we know alcohol is also quite high during this period. It tends to be higher at this stage than at any other stage in the lifespan. But it also is a stage that offers us some really meaningful opportunities to educate young people and talk to young people about alcohol. And we've been seeing a declining trend in alcohol among post-secondary students, which is really encouraging. And so there's really an opportunity here for campuses to try to, capitalize on that momentum. And using this campaign may be one way to do that. So this campaign really emerged out of a roundtable that was hosted by CCSA in January 2024 in Newfoundland, where we were discussing how to mobilize knowledge around the new guidance on alcohol and health. And one of the priority populations for CCSA is post-secondary students because of their high level of consumption. And so in response, following that event, we worked in partnership with CCSA to develop a multimedia campaign that would be used. It was intended to be used by post-secondary institutions to educate students about Canada's new guidance on alcohol and health. So there were kind of three goals of this campaign. The first was to increase students' awareness of Canada's guidance on alcohol and health, and then to educate students of the harms and costs associated with alcohol consumption, and to empower students to make informed decisions about their alcohol use. Some of the other goals that we really just had were to really make it easier for campuses to implement, that they wouldn't need a lot of resources to do that. And so we started our campaign development.
Yeah, the campaign was developed through a multi-step process in collaboration with the CCSA, and we partnered with a PR firm called UP, based out of Halifax, as well as post-secondary students. Our approach to the messaging and the tone for this campaign was informed by conducting a search of academic literature that evaluated other alcohol use and behavior change campaigns in post-secondary settings, and conversations with knowledge experts at CCSA, as well as our PR firm. We hosted a brainstorming session with health and psychology students, as well as some folks from student services. And through this process, we determined that it was important to approach the messaging and tone of this campaign in a way that was factual and non-judgmental, relatable for student audiences, promotes individual autonomy or agency in decisions about alcohol, is focused on harm reduction and not abstinence. We wanted to avoid parental or lecture-like tones. Of course, make it engaging and memorable, and provide tools to help students make informed decisions about alcohol. Peer-to-peer communication was another really important part of our campaign development, and we're going to sort of show you how we incorporated that a little later on. So as far as the timeline for this project, the roundtable took place in January of 2023. I think we sort of kind of entered into a partnership with CCSA around March of 2024. And then really in the spring and summer of 2024, we developed the campaign concepts. We had originally 3 concepts, and then we ended up narrowing it down to 2 that we took to focus groups. We had 5 focus groups, as I mentioned, of students and student service staff. We asked them things like, what stood out to them, what were the key messages, what did they like and dislike about the campaign messages. And responses to the concepts were positive. Findings confirmed that concepts conveyed a sense of personal responsibility, empowerment, and harm reduction. So once we completed those focus groups in the winter of 2025, we were able to then refine the concepts and really draft those assets. And then in the spring of last year, we piloted the campaign at both St. FX and UPEI. So yeah, let's just talk about what those assets kind of ultimately looked like and look like today. We really wanted, again, similar to no alcohol, there was some nice complementary elements as we were kind of working alongside each other while we were both developing our own and working on our own projects. So nice punchy colors, of course, a really memorable tagline, some key messages on things like our print posters and our digital assets, but not too much text, images of, again, real people enjoying themselves together individually, and just sort of relatable images that show a variety, we don't know what's in their cup. It could be anything, and just sort of really promoting that autonomy. We also, with these posters, again, when we were recommending, when we put in our dissemination guide, we really want folks to use them in combination with each other, as we found it has more impact when you're seeing kind of all of those colors and all of those images in partnership throughout. So these are the digital assets that we created. On the left, you see basically a digital poster. That's something that would go on rotating screens on campuses, which is a really common way that campuses are sharing information these days. Although there's still a strong presence of print posters, the digital option's very good to have as well. And then on the right there, this is more of our social media poster, where again, we've designed it to meet the specs of social media, and then we've got accompanying text that can go along in a prompt form. So as we were talking about sort of the peer-to-peer communication strategy, this is where we landed. So we basically created a template that features students, essentially can feature students from any institution, where they can share, students can share their experiences or safe drinking tips with their peers. We found that students really resonate with this and relate from hearing from their peers, as well as really enjoy seeing themselves kind of represented throughout the campaign. And so, yeah, this is sort of a version of what we're calling, like, what's your call? What's your call when it comes to alcohol or making decisions around alcohol? So again, we heard from the folks from No Alcohol, but this is really a big part of our campaign. We decided that we wouldn't create our own website or our own accounts related to the campaign, but rather have our assets link back to the No Alcohol campaign, as it is a tool that folks can engage with on their own time and really evaluate how alcohol shows up in their lives. So all of our assets, everywhere you see a QR code, links back to this website. During our pilot phase, we did do sort of a launch event. And so what you see here is an image from the St. FX launch event where we were sampling mocktails. You also saw a clip of this from the Nature of Things documentary. And so this was, again, a peer-to-peer led event where we had students sampling mocktails. We had the no alcohol app pulled up on a laptop so students could come and fill that out. A chance to win a gift basket there, and just an opportunity to contribute and have conversations. We also, as a part of our assets in one way, shape, or form, we have a student on campus that is working sort of with a company called Safe Lids. And so they design these lids that you can customize that go over the top of any standard can, essentially. So again, just to try to think outside of the box of your traditional swag items like pens and stickers, we kind of wanted to feature these safe lids as we thought they were a pretty neat harm reduction item. And they're quite affordable as well. So again, that was a huge part of this campaign, is how can we set campuses up for success and really keep costs low at the same time.
After we developed all our assets, the goal was to pilot test the campaign. And so we launched at both St. FX and UPEI in March of 2025. And we ran the campaign for 1 month, which included the launch event that Steph just talked about. And we distributed the posters across campus. We had posts on social media content using institutional channels. So our St. FX University Instagram, for example, as well as Residence Life and their channels. We measured our evaluation in 2 ways. One, using social media metrics from the respective accounts, and also through sending online survey to all our post-secondary students. So in terms of social media, we had a total of 5 posts made across 2 Instagram accounts, the official St. FX account, and one posted these student say, or like your drink, your call. And it was the most engaging post. You can see it had 15,000 views. It had the greatest reach. And across the 5 posts, we reached about 27,000 accounts. And so even though it was only 5 posts across the full month, we actually had really good engagement from students. And this one, which we expected, was the most highly engaged with. So the survey went out to all of our St. FX students at the end of March, so in early April. UPEI also sent it out to students, but only through their Instagram and not until May, when most students were gone. So as you can see, when you look at the sample size, we had 440 responses from St. FX students, but only 29 from UPEI students. So the UPEI data is not as representative, but I'm just presenting a small portion of the results here. And what we found was that approximately 64% of the students at St. FX who did the survey reported that they had seen the campaign in the previous month, which was pretty good, and many had seen it multiple times. Also, when we looked to make sure that students were properly identifying what the campaign was about, to make sure that our message was being communicated clearly. And the majority of students were able to correctly identify that the message was about students making informed decisions about their alcohol, and that students should be informed about the risks. We also looked at students' self-reported knowledge of the guidance before and after, as one of the key goals of the campaign was to develop awareness of Canada's guidance on alcohol and health. And you can see that prior to seeing the campaign, only 18% of St. FX students, only 8% of UPEI had rated their knowledge of the guidance as very good or excellent. But after the campaign, that increased to 34% and 36% reporting that their knowledge was good or excellent. And then we also asked a few other questions just about students' opinions about the campaign and about alcohol education in general. And 73% of St. FX students, 67% of UPEI said they really liked the design of the campaign and felt that it would resonate with students and help them learn more about CAN's guidance on alcohol and health. So we were really pleased with these findings. Students also had an opportunity to speak to their own perceptions and reflections on the campaign. In general, students really liked the colors and thought the posters were very eye-catching and intriguing. They liked the tone of the campaign. And one of the things they really liked was seeing real students participate in the campaign because it felt like it was really speaking to them. So we are really happy with the results of the campaign. There isn't a full report on the campaign evaluation that talks about its implementation, development, and the results of the campaign in full. That's readily available on the CCS website, CCSA website. And then we also developed a dissemination guide. And this is a very detailed guide that has access to all of the assets that you've seen, plus more, in readily available format that you can just download for use. And it also walks you through how to launch this on your campus, the do's and don'ts, how to plan a successful launch. And the goal of this was to have something that we could literally hand to post-secondary institutions to use with very little resources needed. So with only a few $100s that you can use for swag, you can run this campaign on your campus. So both of these documents are readily available, as are all the assets. They are going to be available in French and English. I'm also happy to answer any questions if you want to follow up with us at a later time.